yeah, it was amazing. Like I already knew about colours and light and all of that sort of thing. It was just like I got one of my assignments back, one of my first assignments. I got 100%. And I remember like saying, I think you've made a mistake.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. This week I am joined by Sophie McDougall-Wenn from Stella Design Co. Hi Sophie.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Now, for those of you who don't know, Sophie is based in Wanganui in the southern part of the North Island of New Zealand. She's about 2 hours away from windy old Wellington. Now, Sophie, I love to find out, what can you see out your window today?
So I've actually got 2 windows. My front window, I'm looking at a very dusty, grubby car of mine because I live in I live rurally. My husband is a farmer, so I've got to drive up those dusty roads every day. But I've got a much nicer view out my side window, beautiful French doors here, and I'm looking out on a little patch of grass and a lemon tree.
Oh, beautiful. What a beautiful area to work in.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely.
So tell me about your business and how you've gotten to where you are today.
Yeah, so well, I'm an interior designer and I specialize in kitchen designs. And I've got a business here in Wanganui in the North Island of New Zealand called Stella Design Co. So the way that I got here is a very long and winding road, Beth.
It
So
always is.
I think that like most interior designers that, guests that I've heard on your podcast and people that I talk to, it's actually my 3rd career that I've had in my life, in my 40 years. So, the way that when I originally, what I wanted to do when I left school, I wanted to be an actor, wanted to be an actress. So I actually went to drama school after I left school and studied down in Christchurch in the South Island of New Zealand.
Yep.
And I was down there for a few years studying and things, and that was quite a profound experience, drama school. I loved it. It was, it was like, I come from a small town, so going down to Christchurch was a very eye-opening experience.
Yep.
I suddenly was around all these people that were like me, they were loud and they were weird and they were funny and they were quirky and, coming from a farming background, everybody was quite conservative. And was nobody really like me, and I always felt like a bit of a fish out of water. And I went down there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love it here. And I was so happy, and it had a big part in my life that time down there, and I look back on. But so basically I went down to drama school, and then I ended up coming back up to the North Island to essentially pad my savings back up again, because I spent it all down there. And I wanted to go and pursue acting in either Auckland or Wellington, our major cities here in New Zealand. But I needed to get some savings back up again before I would go and do that. So I took a job at a large-scale manufacturing company here in Wanganui, actually, that sold safety helmets.
Oh, yeah.
And, And I started working there on the receptionist as a receptionist and I was at like 6 months.
Yep.
I'll be here for 6 months. 9 years later, I'm still there. Not as the receptionist, but I went up the ranks very quickly there. And the majority, I met my husband while I was there. I had my daughter while I was there, and the majority of my time there, I was the purchasing officer. So I was buying all of the stuff that made the helmets. Very stressful job. And at the end of that time, I kind of was like, is this really what I want to be doing?
Yeah.
Fallen into that role, and I enjoyed it for a period of time, even though it was very high stress. I kind of, when I went home on the weekends, I'd always have a million DIY projects that I was doing, and I was sewing something, and I was redoing this dresser, and I had this vegetable garden, and there was all of this creativity that I had no outlet for at work, but it was all going into, my weekend life. And I kind of thought, is this, I think I need to go into do something that I'm actually feel passionate and love and joy, and something that I can use my hands and, be creative in. And all at kind of the same time that was going on in my head, my mum and dad were having this big renovation of the front part of their home. So they had engineers, architects, builders, kitchen designers, interior designers, color consultants, the works. She had them all. And she was actually looking after my daughter a little bit while I was working. And so I was kind of involved in it. And I didn't really know that interior designers kind of existed in a way.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that maybe they were, these older ladies that went and bought a pillow.
Yep. Maybe did some curtains and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that's kind of what my understanding of interior design was. When mum would have these, these amazing kitchen design plans, and she'd have mood boards and samples and fabrics and tiles, and I was like, holy shit, this is cool stuff. I loved it. And the amazing kitchen design, and she the lady, she'd done a perspective 3D drawing and drawn all where everything goes. It's just like, this is I think there's something here. And when I actually look back at it, I spent a lot of my childhood rearranging my bedroom and putting my toys in a specific place and making everything look pretty. And used to watch a lot of design shows when I was growing up. And my mum's always kept a beautiful home. She's full of antiques and all of that sort of thing. So there was an interest there all along, but I just kind of didn't discover it until this. And so when I was thinking about what can I change my career to be, interior design came up, and I Googled it and saw that there was a course, a design school nearby in Palmerston North, an hour away from where I am. And they had a 1-year course full time. And I talked to my husband, and he just said, go, let's just do it. Let's do it. And so, I went off to design school in Palmy for a year, and that was the first kind of educational experience that I had where I was like top of the class. I went to a private girls' school. And I was in no way top of the class. I was at the back of the class, distracting people and, stupid shit. So this was weird to be in a classroom, and I already knew all the answers. Do you know what I mean?
It just clicked.
Yes. It was amazing. Like, I already knew about colors and light and all of that sort of thing. It was just like I got one of my assignments back, one of my first assignments. I got 100%. And I remember like saying, I think you've made a mistake. Is there such a thing as getting 100%? It was just mental. It was crazy. I'd never had an experience like that before in an educational environment. So it was thrilling. And so I knew that I'd made the right decision.
Definitely.
It was pretty cool. So at the end of that year, I was scouted by a kitchen franchise owner, a business owner. and he asked me to come and be a designer at a kitchen franchise in Palmy. So yeah, that was kind of my first role, and I was you get thrown in there kind of head first.
Yeah.
And I think I was at my first consultant, at my first appointment with a client in my first week.
Yeah,
I
wow.
was measuring out someone's kitchen and kind of talking and taking them through all the questions, and then I had to design it, and it was but it was great because you just got thrown in and you kind of had to sink or swim in a way and just learn. But the only thing about it was, it was commission-based work. So the other designers there, and the business owner, he didn't have any experience with designing himself. He was a business owner.
Yeah.
So in order to actually learn, you had to grab time from other designers, but they're on a commission, so they're not going to teach essentially their competition how to design. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's hard.
Weird dynamic, but I was really lucky because one of the girls there, well, the two girls that I worked with when we first started, I'm still great friends with them.
Yeah.
And one of them was a designer and also a operations person in the business. So she was able to come and take me aside and teach me how to use the software and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, I was there for a good few years. It was a great place. The market was very much like middle of the range, mum and dad kind of people.
Yeah.
So one of the big things that it taught me was definitely value for money and budget, and getting a budget from a client and actually being able to stick to it. If I presented a kitchen that was 10K over their budget, that's a failure. I've got $30,000 of their money that they've saved up all their lives.
Yeah.
Yes, but I've got to eke that out.
Yeah.
Get everything out of it, and it teaches you how to take a breath and how to spend every cent of their money and make sure that they get everything for what they're doing, which was fantastic and great for what I do now, because now, if someone gives me a budget, I'm going to keep to that budget.
Yeah.
And I'm able to. You get a knowledge of what works,
And did you, I've got so many questions from that. So did you know you always wanted to work for yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why I decided on interior design, because I thought eventually, I didn't think I'd go into business this early in my career.
Yeah.
But I knew eventually that I would be able to have my own business. That was
right. Okay.
Yeah. One of the big.
So, I mean, this story is so common, like interior design is like second, third, fourth kind of job. And so often as well, like I feel like there should be a question on every design school application. Did you rearrange your bedroom as a child?
Okay, you're good.
You're straight in. And so often as well, like, generally women, they sit there and they're like, oh my goodness, I just get this. Like, this is like, it is my vibe. I just get it. I'm like, oh my goodness, like top of the class kind of thing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love hearing it.
Yeah.
So you, how old was your daughter when you started your training?
When I was studying, I think she was like, she might have just turned 2.
Yeah, right. Okay, so she was really little.
She was really little, and there's a lot of mum guilt there.
Yeah.
Because when you're studying, you've got, I think that they were sort of, can't quite remember. I think it started at 9 and went to 4. Then you always had a million assignments that you were doing.
So and you were like an hour commute either way.
An hour commute.
Yeah.
Yeah. She went to a daycare that was at that time sort of halfway between where course was and where we lived.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about daycare as opposed to school is daycare, they can have them until bloody 5 o'clock.
I know.
or a
I know.
school. I've got to pick her
I
up.
don't. School is like, I don't know where they came up with school hours, but like, who gets anything done between 9 and 3?
I know. I've got to leave here at 2:30 to get out to her at 3. It's just
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
crazy.
Yeah, so she was only little. So that was a crazy time to be doing that with her, and a lot of mum guilt during that time. But we got
And
through it.
that's, so often you hear it, like, I'll do it when the kids get to school, or I'll do it that way kind of thing. And I'm just like, I think hearing that other people do it, and like, you can do it, and it's whether it's studying at night, all of that kind of stuff, it can be done. The
Well,
other,
it's just kind of like you just got to do it. Like
yeah,
I'll always find an excuse. I'm a person that always has an excuse for
yeah,
everything, to not do something, to
yeah.
lie on my couch. Sometimes you've just got to bloody just do it, even
Yeah,
if it's going to be hard. You'll figure it out along the
yeah,
way. You know what I mean?
exactly,
And so that's what
exactly.
we did.
The other thing that, and this has come up in a couple of my conversations recently, is talking about, I see you've got a training in acting, and you
Yes.
have a lot of knowledge around safety hat construction and what goes into that. Um,
Yeah.
how what kind of transferable skills did you kind of see that you already had, that you go, okay, I can use that in that interior design? Or it might have been that later on down the track you go, oh wow, like I used to do it this way, like I can bring it across. Because I think sometimes, particularly women, don't acknowledge the skills that they have that they
Mm.
will be able to use in their interior design career.
Yeah. So, when I was working in the office and in the manufacturing industry, so many skills that I've taken on from there.
Mm.
And mainly it's about, I know how to work an Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah.
and organizational skills and
Yeah.
all of that sort of thing, to be able to organize my day, because when you work in an office, you're quite a structured
Yeah.
kind of environment. And arranging, purchasing, my whole day was all about process. So
Yeah.
it was a process that I had to do every morning. I'd print my reports, I'd see where my stock levels were, I'd make my orders, I'd talk to my, importers overseas and things like that. So that, getting those processes into what I do now is so important. If you don't have process, you're just flailing around.
Oh, excuse my
And
language
spending all
here.
your night thinking about these things that you should be doing in bed when you should be sleeping.
Yeah.
It's so important. So that was, so important for what I do now. In acting, I think that's given me is a huge confidence to be on screen.
Yeah.
I'm a big social media person. So if you follow me on Instagram, I'm on my stories most days.
I love
I
it.
don't have any qualms about being on camera or anything like that. I'm quite happy talking to people in these sorts of ways.
Yeah.
And a lot of, client work now, I've got to present designs to clients. So it's almost a performance
Yeah,
in
it
of it.
really is. Yeah.
So I think that's helped me and given me confidence to kind of, be able to talk through designs with people and treat it like it is almost like an acting performance, even though I'm not acting, but do you know what I mean?
But it so is in some ways. Like, I know uh I would say that I find the presenting to clients one of the more challenging sides of being an interior designer. And
Mm,
it's because um I suppose I just kind of like, I it can be kind of a bit of a hurdle to get over, because you're kind of like, oh, like I hope they like it, I hope, kind of
yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
part of it is almost like you have to convince them to love it as much as you love it. And so,
Mm,
if you think about a good acting performance, you are trying to convince the audience that, you're in love with so and so, or whatever it is, kind of.
yes,
And
yeah.
so there really is a performance side of giving a client presentation. Like, you are
Mm.
taking that client on a journey. So yeah, like, I can imagine you kind of go into acting mode.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I agree. Presenting is, especially if you've been working on a design for a long
Yeah.
time and you love it, and then all of a sudden they're 10 minutes away from turning up at your studio, and
Yeah.
suddenly you've got imposter syndrome and you're like, this is shit. I shouldn't have done it that way. They
Yeah.
didn't ask for that. What am I doing with my life? All
Totally.
of that stuff happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also as well, like, when the client, like mid-presentation, and the client throws a curveball, or you can just see that they're kind of like not really
They're
getting
not
it, or
liking
you're
it, or
like, you've gone
very
blue and they were thinking it would be pink or something, and you're like, oh, like, I think being able to not show maybe the panic that you're feeling, or like, I think that's a real art to be able to present to a client, to kind of,
and think on your feet. You've got to think on your feet so
Yeah.
quickly and come up with, I probably shouldn't say this, but I do remember one time when I was presenting, before I was on my own. And well, I've probably done it a couple of times, to be honest. Microwaves are the bane of kitchen designers' lives. We bloody hate microwaves. And a couple of times I actually forgot to put them in the design. So I was midway through presenting this design. Here we are, this wall, here's your ovens and your hob, and your cooking is in here, and la, la, la. And then the client goes, where's the microwave? And I go, well, I had multiple different positions for the microwave that I was thinking of. I didn't want to set in stone which one I would
I'd
go
love
for.
your
I thought,
feedback.
yeah, I'll let you know which places it could fit, and you tell me.
Yeah.
I remember after that presentation, like, oh, it's so well done.
It's so true. Like, being able to think on your feet when that comes up, because it happens like it's so many times, or like you'll forget to put, I don't know, the like the hand towel holder in. Like, it's
Yes.
so like, you're like, oh yeah, it's just over there. Like, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of work on kitchens, and you obviously
Yes.
have a strong background in kitchen design.
Yes.
Tell me, what are you seeing people do wrong in kitchens a lot?
Well, I've actually written some bits down for this one, Beth,
Because I think
because otherwise I'll go off track.
kitchens are so they're very technical. Like, getting so often you'll see clients come in and they're like, they want this kitchen, and it's like, well, actually, like, that doesn't work for you. Like, you're a family of 6, and there's like, this is a kitchen for, maybe someone living on their own or something
Yes.
like that. Like, there is so much consideration that needs to go into a kitchen, and it can
Yeah.
they can be very expensive. Like, aside from a bathroom, you can spend a lot of your budget of a renovation on your kitchen.
Huge
And,
money.
sometimes they can be a little bit kind of lackluster.
And I think that kitchens, as you say, they've become this kind of big thing now. I find when it comes to home design, it's all about the kitchen and what's the kitchen going to be. And with the way that we live now with open plan, I know that in Aussie you have a lot of open plan. We do here in New Zealand, and connection to outside and outside living, and you guys would have pools and things like that. So that big living area has become so important, and so the kitchen is like the crown jewel of that area. Do you know what I mean? So it's so important. But I think what people do is they focus too much on the aesthetics at the start. We need to focus on the kitchen is a room that we're in continuously, all times of day, multiple amount of people. You might just be you, or you might be, having a big dinner party or something like that, or you've got your family there. It needs to be thought of as a practical zone.
Yeah.
And where everything goes, and making sure your distances and dimensions are correct, and you're not kind of feeling squeezed into a space, and all of that sort of stuff needs to be well thought out before aesthetic comes in. But as a professional designer myself, I'm always thinking about the aesthetic. That's always in the back of my brain after I've taken a brief, that okay, we'll put the sink over here, and that will work there, but I'd like to put the ovens here, but they want to do this, so I won't do that because that won't work aesthetically, and la la la. But I also find that, like, practicalness, it kind of if a space is practical and works, it almost has its own beauty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just a given.
Yeah.
Whereas if you walk into a space, I've done it before, kitchens, and gone, why have they put that there?
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how pretty they are.
Or something, that's any reason. Why have they put, so many times I see a pantry and a fridge on either ends of a galley kitchen?
Yeah.
And it's like, they're supposed to be together.
Yeah.
That's your pantry zone, your pantry and your fridge. Your pantry is your fridge is your cold pantry. And your
Yes.
pantry is your pantry. Put them together.
Yeah.
You know, why are you walking up and down your kitchen the whole bloody night when you just want to get your tea ready, you know?
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's great to have a vision of what you want, but you can't think too much about it. You've got to get the space right for your space.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to like what you were talking about when you were doing the work for the kitchen company.
Yes.
Taking a strong brief and
Mm.
asking the questions that the client hasn't even thought about. And it's like, it's more than like, what do you want it to look like? It's really understanding, how do they live? Do they entertain? Do they not entertain? How many members in the family? Do they cook? Do they not cook? You know?
Yeah. If you like, I asked the question, like, are you left or right-handed?
Yes.
You know, like, and who's the main person that's working in the kitchen all the time? Because we kind of need to base the design around that person.
Yeah.
And New Zealand has this weird, I don't know if it's right in Australia as well, but we have this weird obsession with resale. So there's this weird thing with designing spaces that are for people that are going to own this house 10 years down the road. Who cares about those people?
Yes.
Probably what you're deciding now will probably be not in 10 years anyway. So let's focus on you and make a space for you.
Yeah. And then, and like things like, so quite often something that I see happening is people will sacrifice the main kitchen so that they can have a butler's kitchen or a butler's pantry. And it's
yes, I was going to talk about this, Beth.
I'm like, why? Like, why do you need the butler's pantry? Like, and like, what are you actually, is it a pantry or is it a butler's pantry? Are you having like, and like, one of the builders that I work with who is a Kiwi, he is so practical. And quite often he's like, why on earth are we building a second kitchen at the back of the front first kitchen that's got as many appliances in it as the front? Like, why are we building two kitchens here? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's just that he's quite perplexed by it, kind of thing.
Yes.
And quite often there's good reason why, kind of thing. Like the last one we've done, she's a really big entertainer and she actually gets caterers in a lot. So it actually makes sense for her. But I do so often see people, you know, like one of my favorite pastimes is to scroll real estate photos. And you're like, the front kitchen doesn't work because you've kind of tried to slot in this butler's pantry.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And it's become like a sales thing. It's like, it looks good on paper to say you've got a kitchen and a scullery. And I find with a lot of new home builders, not necessarily independent builders, but you know, new home builders companies, they have sort of specs of homes that they put together for their clients. And the kitchens are generally a galley kitchen, so a back bench, an island, and a scullery off to the side.
Yes.
Sculleries are tiny. They're just pathetic. And often sculleries, you have all open cabinetry within them. And what happens in open cabinetry is things just get shoved in and it becomes an absolute pigsty in no time. And it's completely just impractical. And why didn't you just get rid of that and make your space even bigger? Give yourself even more bench space. It just becomes just a waste of space. Let's actually think about the kitchen itself and not just what is selling homes or what it's cool to say that I've got a scullery. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's kind of like, can we, that transition from everyone just had like a big pantry cupboard. And now everyone's got these pantry rooms. And I quite often I'm like, how much food do you need to store? Like, that's coming from someone like, I'm not a baker and I'm not that big of a cook kind of thing. So it's not like I've got a massive amount of ingredients and stuff in my cupboards, but I am always fascinated. Like I always chat to clients. And whenever I have a client who's like, I want to have a butler's pantry, all that kind of stuff, I really do quiz them. And I'm like, well, why are you wanting this? Is it because
Yeah.
Kate next door's got one?
Yeah, and
Or,
that's a lot of what it is, and what they're seeing on Pinterest and
yeah,
things is that. So I think that happens, but people don't realize you've got to essentially, sometimes, not all the time, but a lot of the time, you've got to build walls in and
yeah,
things for that. So it takes up, maybe 300-400 mil of space that could be put into another item in your kitchen,
yeah, exactly.
that could be utilized better. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I just think. And a piece of advice for any people that are renovating right now and listening would be to get a piece of tape, and
mm,
if you've got a new build happening in your kitchen, as your plans are there, get a piece of masking tape and mask out the area and
yeah,
actually see it. It's so different when you look at something on a plan. It might actually look quite big,
mm,
but when you mask that out and stand in it, you're like, shit, actually, there's not much room here.
no,
Like, why don't we just get rid of that and have a big
yeah.
space?
I know people, I find the one that always catches clients out is if either side of the cooktop, if they never quite grasp one, like we obviously try, you make it as big as possible, but quite often
Mm.
that's where you kind of like have to pinch space from, and they're like, oh, there's not much room here. And I'm like, yeah, because we've got to have this and this and this
Yeah,
kind of.
because you wanted 2 oven towers standing in
Yeah.
front.
Exactly, exactly. So something that you mentioned earlier,
Mm,
and this is like, makes my heart sing, was
mm,
about how important processes were for your when you worked in manufacturing, and
yes,
how they have come across to your design business. And
yes.
you're just a solo designer. You don't have a large team around you. So
No,
systems and processes are crucial to the everyday running
yeah,
of your
they
business.
are.
What are some of the things that you've put in place that you kind of take your client through when it comes to systems and processes?
Well, yeah, when I first decided to go out on my own, I remember writing all the processes down, and I kind of took from the process that I was already doing within the business that I was working in, but some of it didn't really work to what I was doing now. And um, one of the biggest and best things that I did right at the beginning when I was developing my website, I also developed this downloadable PDF that had the whole process, because the
Yeah.
amount of times that people, especially when it comes to kitchen and joinery design,
Yep.
um, they're always asking, well, what happens next, and what do you do then, and how does this work? And so I put this big document together that documented each step and how it happens and what happens in those steps and what to expect and all
Yeah.
of that sort of thing. And there's a big sheet on there that I've put so that they can write all of their trades and things down on, all of their numbers together, and stick it on their fridge, so they've got all their services right there for them to have. So that's been an awesome thing
Yeah.
to have, and just to give to people. And when they're asking me what's next, okay, go back and refer to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's
this.
really awesome because I talk so much about how when you have strong systems and processes, it makes your job so much easier. But it
Mm,
also really helps the client to understand the value that you're bringing to the project.
mm, mm.
Because Joe Blogs down the street never fully appreciates how much work goes into interior design. Like it is
No,
so time consuming, and there's so much knowledge that you need to make it look simple.
yes,
And I quite often say to designers, like stepping out in minute detail, almost what the client can expect from you,
mm.
really helps solidify how much value you are bringing to the project.
Yeah, exactly. And they can see all those jeepers.
Mm.
You have to do a lot of work to just to get to this stage. Do you know what I mean? So
Because I think as
yeah,
well, like people understand what an architect does, and they
yeah.
understand what a builder does, and they might not completely understand what an engineer does, but they kind of get
Mm.
that it's technical and therefore, hard,
They've got
or
to study to do
they've got to
that.
do
So,
something.
they
But interior
must be clever.
design, like almost like yourself, it's like, well, do you just pick the cushions? Like,
Yes,
like
exactly. Exactly. And you're constantly battling that the whole time. And,
Mm.
I was a person that thought that myself because
Yeah.
I didn't know. But yeah, you are battling that. And I think a lot of times there's this interpretation of designers that we're all these rich women that, are walking around spending all your money and, and the
Yes,
designer's
yes.
going to come in and mess up all the stuff that the builder's going to do. They're going to get us to do some weird bloody thing,
Yeah.
when I'm as practical as the next guy, and I don't want to spend all of your money. I want
No.
you to get value, and I don't want you to be pinching pennies for the next 10 years
Yeah.
because you've gotten this enormous, design put in.
Yeah.
So we're not the baddies.
No, I know. And so often it's like, I don't know, I'm always saying to my clients, don't go for that. That's too expensive. Like, do this, do that kind of thing. So I think that, I think those kind of documents, they're a lot of work to put together, but they really show.
Invaluable now though, Beth, and
Exactly.
completely invaluable. And it saves me so much time because instead of me going back in an email and explaining that step that I've already told them verbally or in an email previously, I can say, have a look at this, and step 3, this is where we're up to. And that only takes me 5 minutes, whereas typing it out in an email might have taken me half an hour,
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's really kind of crucial.
Yeah.
Something else that I know you are involved in. So your partner, I'm going to get this wrong. Your national kind of kitchen and bathroom designer.
Yes.
So over here it's called the KBDI. Over
Oh,
your
yeah.
guys,
Well, the NKBA over here.
that's it.
National Kitchen and Bathroom Association.
That's it.
Mhm.
How does networking come into play with you? Like, you work in a regional rural setting.
Yes.
You work on your own. How does networking come into your business?
So, as far as networking with NKBA, it is a little bit few and far between. I'm
Yeah.
actually involved with getting because it's NKBA is national, and then they have regional chapters. You know what I mean? And you're involved in whatever chapter if you want to be. So I was involved in the Wellington chapter. I was a member of there. But I'm actually like smack bang in the middle between Wellington and an area called Taranaki, if you know where New Plymouth is and things like that. So, and the Taranaki chapter was dormant. Nobody there, nobody home, nobody doing anything.
The lights weren't on.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was actually approached by someone from the NKBA, and they said, why don't you get involved with getting that chapter back up and running?
Yeah.
And so, that's what we're kind of doing at the moment, trying to develop that Taranaki chapter so we can do more networking events. I am involved, I was involved, it's just recently disbanded, in a business group here in Wanganui that wasn't to do with design. It was just a small business owners group, which was brilliant, especially when I first was out. There were all, I didn't know any of them. It was just my graphic designer who did my logo, who joined it. And then I said, what's this group? And she told me, and I came along, and we used to have breakfast every fortnight and just talk about our businesses, what we're doing, and refer people and stuff like that. So to get, if anybody, is going out on their own now, to get involved in any of those sorts of groups, really invaluable. You can get people around you that, can help build you and promote you to other people and things like that.
Yeah, because it's so important. I think so often, especially if you're just going out on your own, it can be quite daunting. And I think, so obviously things like, industry networking is really important, because I think, you can get industry knowledge and suppliers and all of that kind of stuff. And just even meeting other designers. Like, I think that's so important. Having someone that you can call up and go, oh my goodness, like, this tradie's completely dropped the ball. Like, do you have a plumber that can help me out, kind of thing? Like,
well, I've got
those people that you can call, but then also having, I think, networking amongst different business groups is so important,
that have an outside perspective.
Yeah, just I think that really helps. Like you get to meet people who might have been in business for 20
Mm,
years and have seen it all, and they're kind of like,
mm,
don't worry
don't
about it.
do
Like
that, and,
this will come and go. And
yes,
especially, we were talking just before, like we pressed record about how it's an interesting time in the industry at the moment, both over in New Zealand and here in Australia, where
mm,
we've definitely come off the, amazing COVID times where everyone was renovating to
yes,
times now where there's still work around, but as we were saying, there's maybe just not as many leads coming in the door or
yeah, yeah.
where your next
Just don't
project
have
is.
that disposable income as much as they used to.
Yeah,
So
and so I think
yeah.
spending time networking with these other business owners is so good because,
Mm.
one, they could refer work to you or all of that kind of stuff, but I think they just give you a real um, kind of sounding board that you kind of
And
like,
a
oh,
sense of community as well, Beth. Like we're
yeah,
often on our own. I'm by myself, and I can get quite lonely out here, you know.
yeah,
So having other people that are doing similar things to you, even if it's not the same business
yeah,
or industry, is so nice. And I'm really lucky in that I actually have a design bestie, a friend that I worked with when I was just kitchen designing, and that's
yeah,
all. At the franchise, we worked together, and we like instantly became great friends, great energy, very similar.
yeah,
And she's just recently gone out on her own as well. Her name's
yeah,
Sophie.
wow.
The Design Co is her
Ah,
business.
very cool.
But we get a lot of I don't know, just joy from one another. And she's, even though essentially she is my competition, she isn't my competition.
No,
I want her to be successful when she
yep,
does me, and I'll always shout her out in any room
yeah,
that I can. And also, she's the person, and I'm her as well, that we ring and say, oh, God, I've got this bloody client. I can't figure out how to do this, and la la la.
yeah,
I'll ring my rep. His name is such and such.
yeah,
Or, we're so involved in each
yeah,
other's all weekend. This last weekend, we've been Snapchatting one another about we're both working on a similar design.
yeah,
And I'm like, this is where I'm up to now. That bit, and so it's just wonderful to have a person that is not working with me, and
yeah,
in the business I'm not her workmate, but we're kind of we're working towards the same thing.
yeah,
But
and that's
she's not my
really,
competition, she's not.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's so lovely. And like, I always love seeing these kind of design friendships. Like,
Yes.
I'm actually thinking of a trio at the moment that I've seen. I don't really know them very well. I would say I would know them enough to say hi at a networking thing, but I know they've all been over to Milan recently and
Oh,
I've been watching
cool.
them and I'm like, oh my goodness, like even though I don't know you, you're kind of just like Instagram people that I know. Just seeing
Yes.
the three of them together, I was like, my goodness, that is so lovely. And they're a bit like you. They all work in the same area. They would all have similar client base kind of thing. But that sense of there's abundance and there's enough for work for everyone kind of thing, I think is so
Hmm.
lovely. But yeah, I kind of like, there's a few other kind of, I suppose, little friendships that I see on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, it's so lovely. Like I love seeing women support other women. And I think,
Yeah, it is cool because it's an industry that's funny in that way, where it can be the opposite of that.
yes,
And,
yes.
I've had a lot of doors slam on me, and people not interested in, if I've seen something beautiful on Instagram and said, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Is that the such and such?
Yep.
And they've just not responded or said
Yes.
no, or,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
like, oh gosh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, it can be quite weird in
Yes.
that way. So it's lovely to be able to have people that are not afraid that we're stealing off one another
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just purely, giving each other light in a way.
Yeah. No, it's really lovely.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are you looking forward to in your business in the next 12 months?
Well, as we were talking about, who knows what the next 12 months will
I
bring
know.
in our industry. My goodness gracious me. um yeah, I mean, I'm just moving forward. I've got lots of work on at the moment that I'm working through. Lots of different work at the moment. I've got a couple of whole homes that I'm doing, conceptualizing, so that's so exciting to
Yeah.
do you know, all the joinery, as well as, you know, doing all the bathroom design, picking tiles, doing their walls, doing their carpets.
Oh, how fun.
Drapery. It's just like, oh, how wonderful. So they're my favorite jobs to do. So yeah, I don't have anything, you know, crazy that I'm going towards. I'm just working away for the next 12 months.
I love that. I love that. Oh, love it. And how can our community reach out to you? As Soph said before, she is a big one on stories, and you will always see her chatting away. And I encourage you all to admire her nails. They are always, I'm always struck. At the moment, they're like lime green. It's just awesome. Awesome. So yeah.
I'm very lucky, and my best friend, she's also a business owner, and she owns a beauty therapy and hair clinic.
Yeah.
And so I get to go and see her once a month, and I get my nails done, and she does my eyebrows and things like that. But anyway, people can find me on Instagram. What is my Instagram? Stella Design
We'll put it all in the show notes.
You put it, I think it's Stella Design Co _NZ, I think.
Yeah, we'll put it all in the show notes.
Because I was scared that someone was going to ring me or something in the middle of this, or I was going to get distracted. Or you can go to my website, which is www.stelladesign.co.nz, and Stella is spelled STELLA. But yeah, come and check me out. I love going on Instagram and talking to my audience every day. So come and check me out, guys.
Yeah, and definitely reach out to Sophie on Instagram to chat to her. She is just a lovely human being. So thank you so much for joining me today, Sophie. I have loved that.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next design dialogue.